Hey, I'm AnthonyRomano, and this video is going to tell you about the two different types of fat burners. And there basically are some that might work for you and some that might not. But I'm going to explain that in this video, and you're going to have to make an assessment based on your lifestyle to actually get to the bottom of that. But at the same time, if you do want to, get my 2 cents, I offer consultation calls where you can go to my website and book a time right now for you and I to have a conversation together on everything you're interested in. We can get to the bottom of all your questions and basically end up with supplement protocols like this specifically made for you. So, on that note, let's get into the two types of fat burners. So, if you've got the Keto Shred program, you know a hell of a lot about different types of fat burners, okay? I have some specifically recommended in my fat loss program that's specifically aimed at keto. I built it over a decade of keto experience on my website, romanoketo.com. But in that book, I mentioned that there are two types of fat burners, and there's the one that everybody knows about. There's the stimulant variety. There's the kind that's going to crank you up, and it's going to basically, guarantee a couple extra 100-calorie burn, right? But it may come at a cost. Now, there's another kind of fat burner which basically does as much work as you do. That's kind of how I like to refer to it. So those are ingredients like carnitine, CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, okay? Could be forskolin, okay? There's other ones, artichoke extract. There's other ones that actually play in and work based off of how they modify how your body uses fat for fuel. So example, in the case of L-carnitine, it plays an important role already in oxidizing fat in your body. So for those of you who don't know, most of the fat you actually burn gets exhaled out, breathed out, okay, as CO2. And when you're using ingredients that are already composed of fat burning in general, that's of course going to be a lot less taxing on the body in any way. Realistically, carnitine, CLA, those are ingredients you would get from food as it is. So they're natural ingredients, and they're things that basically, are not going to crank you up or cause any sort of adrenal burnout, okay, which is a very big problem. And actually, Keto Shred has an adrenal burnout protocol for somebody who's too reliant on stimulants for fat burning. But on that note, the big thing you do want to avoid, this is key, you do not want to pick fat burners that are just used to cranking you up all the time. So you don't want to be going for an ephedra, a yohimbine, a caffeine. You don't want to be cranking those things up all the time, because if you hit a certain level of consumption, it's guaranteed you will get adrenal burnout. And the technical term is adrenal fatigue, but most professionals will say that adrenal fatigue isn't a real thing because your adrenals don't actually get fatigued. Your body just does in other ways, and you can't crank out cortisol as efficiently. So that's the stress hormone, but it also is necessary when you're trying to focus on anything or, get motivation for something. If you can't make cortisol, you can't be stressed by something and have that sort of, extra urge to do it in a certain way. But at the same time, the general rule here is don't go too crazy on stims, right? But how do we actually optimize fat burning with these other fat burners that do as much work as you do? Well, if somebody takes an L-carnitine, right, which is technically, people will call it an amino acid. It's not actually an amino acid. But basically, what it does is, if you sit on the couch all day and take L-carnitine, congrats, you've wasted $24 on a can of L-carnitine. By the way, always get it in pills. You're going to get ripped off if you get it in powder because it's going to clump. And if you get it in liquid, they're just rinsing you out on the price. So always get pills. And again, I actually have it linked in the description. I should. So if you want to find one that I recommend that I've thoroughly vetted for price and quality. And I'll never promote anything that's not fully clean and devoid of artificial ingredients. But that being said, a lot of companies will basically rinse you out on these ingredients, and if you end up paying an arm and a leg for them and they only work as much as you do, then you should be spending more of a bargain price on them. And from there, you want to set up your nutritional and exercise foundations to be the centerpiece here, okay? Which makes sense, right? Because the whole point of a supplement is to supplement your nutritional and exercise protocols. But when we're applying the fat burners that do as much work as you do, for example, carnitine, just because it's one of the ones that I endorse the most and I truly believe in as a low effort, cheap fat burner, if you have a day where you have a lot of activity planned, like low intensity, steady state exercise, you walk around all day, you deliver packages for Amazon or something, right? You got to drive to a place, get out, go deliver, whatever. If you're moving around in a low intensity manner, carnitine is going to benefit you. CLA is going to benefit you, especially if you use them together. They actually do provide extra benefit when used in tandem. But for all those types of fat burners, if you do not do anything, if you sit at a desk all day, if you work an office job, you're not going to get much benefit. Now, the cool thing is with carnitine, which you can learn more about in the Keto Shred program, there are ways to basically maximize the brain function that you can get from using acetyl L-carnitine, which is a different form of carnitine that basically goes to the brain a lot better. And essentially you'll get similar levels of fat burn, but most of the actual work of the carnitine is going to be influencing your brain and basically the cholinergic system in your brain, a slight dopaminergic system in your brain. So basically it's going to help you get more motivated and better at retaining tasks. But for the most part, all these supplements will not do much if you don't do much. So the best way to go about that case would be to throw in a little bit of those stimulating fat burners. But again, moderation is key. That's the threshold. Now for the CLAs, the carnitines, the forskolins, artichokes, all those things, what you're going to be enhancing is your body's internal mechanisms of actually using fat as fuel. And for one of them, for example, with forskolin, it can basically enhance the creation of hormone-sensitive lipase, which breaks down fat, but to make it simple. But essentially, what's going to happen is that is also a potent nootropic brain supplement. But the point is, what you want to take home is these are supplements that will enhance your performance based on allowing you to oxidize more fat. In the case of forskolin, they can increase strength output. In the case of carnitine, they can prevent extra muscle soreness because of how they break down purines and other basically protein markers, but essentially and components that break off of protein, but basically waste essentially is what I'm getting at. Basically, these can improve your performance, and if you use them while performing, it's basically like extra fat loss that you can milk out for the small cost of like $24. So I highly encourage you that if you are aggressive, definitely lean on the side of the fat burners that do as much work as you do, rather than the stimulating kind that's going to crank you up, maybe, you know, give you some heart palpitations, but it's going to get the job done too. So optimally, if you know yourself and you've tried a lot of other supplements, you can try to strike a balance between the two. But for most people, I recommend they start with the latter. And from there, they can already use their coffee consumption or tea consumption to kind of make up the stimulating edge. That's it for this video. If you want to get fully deep into the best fat burning protocols of your life, I'm telling you, Keto Shred program on my website is going to get you there. And if you want to go even deeper, we can have a call together, you and I'll answer all of your questions, and basically we'll get to the bottom of everything, and I'll spit out an action plan for you by the end of it. And from there, we have some follow-ups that we can track your progress with. But the extra deep level from there, the full deep end of the pool, is 24/7 communication that I offer through my coaching on my website. And if you're interested in that, I encourage you to submit an application, and we'll have a free call just to see if it's worth us doing. That is it for this video. Also follow me on Instagram. I've been doing some live streams lately where people have been asking me questions. I've been bringing them on, and it's been really fun. So if you want to join into that too, follow me on Instagram. Peace.